Okay, back in business. Okay, so I'm going to start again quickly from the two dots at the bottom of Tzadik Aleph in the dates. Amarav, Rav said, Dikla the ton kava oshalimik to say. A decal that already has a kav of payers on it, of dates, you're not allowed to cut it down. Measure for Gemara, you need much less to answer you from cutting a fruit tree. Kami bezais, how much has to be an olive tree? Only a quarter of a kav. Zok the Gemara, shiny zaysim the chashivi. Zaysim are marchoshev, even the less zaysim would make it into a fruit tree that you cannot cut down. My son Shivchas did not die. Ella the cut teinasa b'loizmana. He cut a teina of fig tree before he should have, and the push can take out from here that chlor. This was a tzaddik. Chlor. This was someone who probably asked the shayla and didn't cut something down. Shalai halacha. But Abal Pikin, it's such a dover chamer to cut a tree down that you really need to be shoyal leitza before you could do that. If the wood is worth so much money that it's worth way more than the payers, you're allowed to cut the tree down for its wood. It says in the pasuk what type of when can you cut a tree when you're sieging, laying siege on a city. And we darshan. That's even if it's a elon that produces fruit, you're allowed to cut it down for a war effort. But the pasuk says which is mafia that you're not allowed to cut down a fruit tree. But the beginning of the verse says you are. So that means the Torah is really telling you that you're allowed to cut down a fruit tree and a non-fruit tree. In fact, the Bryce of the disciple of the rabbi is called Bava. If anyway the Torah is saying you could even cut down a fruit tree, so why does the Torah even mention anything about a fruit tree or non-fruit tree? To tell us that if you have two trees that you need to cut one of them, and one of them is a fruit tree, one of them is not a fruit tree, better cut down the one that's not the fruit tree. So now we will turn onto Tzadik Beis Amud Aleph. I would have thought that it's also to cut a tree down, even though its wood is worth so much. We're limiting the issue of cutting down a tree only if the wood isn't valuable. But if the wood is more valuable, then you can cut the tree down. Shmuel's sharecropper brought him dates, produce from Shmuel's field. Achali ate them. Tombu time the hammer. He tasted some grape in there. Amalei my high. Why is there grape taste in the dates? Amalei the Ara says because this tree is amongst vines. Amar, so Shmuel said that means it's sucking nourishment from the vines. Amar mikhashi b'chamer kula high. That's such damage. L'macher aisalim karayu. He instructed the Oris, bring me the roots of the date tree. In other words, uproot the tree. Rav Chisda had a similar story. He saw some date trees amongst his vines. He told his Oris, Akrinu, rip him out. Gufni kanidikli. Grapes are more valuable, so I want to protect them. If I sold grapes, I can buy a property with the column. But if I sold the column, I would not be able to buy a property with vines. Even though you paid him the 400 shekel of the boishes or the 200, whatever the assessment was, as per the last Mishnah, you need to ask Mechila and you need to get Mechila. Shenemar, it says by Avram Avinu and Avimelech took Sarah, go give back the Eshes and ask him, should daven for you. Vice the Rosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is instructing Avimelech to be Matthias Avram Avinu. How do you know that it's an action if you're not moichel somebody who asks you mechila? Shnema yispal Avram el Elokim vayirpa Elokim es Avimelech. Hashem davened. I mean, Avram Avinu davened to Hashem, and Hashem healed Avimelech. So that clearly shows that Avram Avinu was moichel. Ha'omer sama yezeni kates yodi shaberes rak. What if someone says, damage me? Chayiv, the person is going to be chayiv. What if he says, cut off my hand, almanas lifter, chayiv is chayiv anyway, you're not a balabas on your goof, you have no right to have someone cut it off. Karash ksuzi shabbos kati, what if he said, just tear my baguette or break my jug, there it will be chayiv, but almanas lifter, then it's potter that you have a right to be moichel on your nechasim. But what if you're a tzaddik on yenim cheshbon? Also kain lishploni, asay kain lishploni. Why don't you go break someone's arm or break someone's jug, almanas lifter, don't worry, you'll be potter. The halach is chayiv. The person doesn't have chayiv anyway. Ben begufay ben b'mamoyne. It doesn't make a difference if the damage was in the guf or in the moment. Either way, the person who did the damage could never walk away from his responsibility just because some third party told him to do it. Tana Rabban, Elu Amru the Mebushtoi, Avo Sairoi Afilu Hevi Kol Eli Nevoy Shaboilim Ein Nimcholoi Achi Vakas Mimenu. Yes, we said in the Mishnah that there's a value for the boishes that's assessed, but that's the actual boishes at the actual time of the incident. But every time a person will recall this horribly humiliating incident, the pain that he went through, it's going to cause him pain forever. Because Rashi says, Shadoye, this person is always going to be worrying. This person's always going to be worrying, Rashi, al boishtoi. Then there's no mechila just because it was paid for. So you have to ask him mechila. Zok to Gemara. Even if you brought every carbon in the book, it would not help. Shnemar, Hashem told Avimelech, Choshev Eishes Aish, Kinavihu. Give back the Eishes Aish because Avram's a Navi. Frank the Gemara, be spal ba'achanol daven for you. Frank, I don't understand. The Eishes Navi boy hadure. Eishes Achaloi boy hadure. Would you allowed to steal someone else's wife unless he's a Navi? Only give it back because it's a Navi? Elamai, that's not what your brother meant. Amar Abshmuel bar Nachmeni on Mebeny's son. When he said, give back this woman because you're not allowed to steal a woman. Give her back. That's Ogeret. You wanted to kindness it with me. I'm innocent. I did nothing wrong. What do you mean? Avram told me it's a sister. He got me and she said it's my brother. I'm a tzaddik. I'm innocent. So Hashem told Avimelech, don't feed me no narishkeit. I see right through your lies and your nonsense and your feigned ignorance of what was going on. Avram Avinu didn't stop tell you Achosi to fool you. He knew you would kill him if he wouldn't say that. Why? Because Novihu, Avram is a Novi, he's a Chacham, he's a Pekech, and he already knew what you were thinking when you asked, who is this woman? Ukfar Limud, he knows. You meet somebody in shul, a man and his wife comes to shul, a beautiful woman, and you meet him the first time. So what do? You say, Shalom Aleichem, do you have a place to eat? Shalom Aleichem, do you have a place to stay? You don't say, Shalom Aleichem, is this your wife or is this your sister? That you don't say. Who's this beautiful woman? That's so inappropriate. But that's exactly what you did, Avimel. That's what you do the first time you meet somebody? It's highly inappropriate. It shows what your intent is. You were going to kill Avram had you thought it was his wife. So therefore, a goy gets killed if he does something like this. You know why? He could have learned from Avimelech that you don't do such things, and he didn't learn. So therefore, you see clearly that he had to ask Mechila as well and ask Mimafayis Avram. What happened? HaKadosh Baruch Hu closed off, he sealed off all of the people by Avimelech, caused great problems. It says in the pasuk, Ki Otzar Hashem. It's a double lashon. Ki Otzar Hashem. Omar Velazar Shtei Atziris Halalu Lama. There's two Atziris, there's two plugs, two plumbing systems in their bodies got plugged. What were they? Achas be'ish Shech Vazera. A male was no longer able to be poiled Shech Vazera. And Shtayim Isha, a woman, had two things that were plugged. A is Shech Vazera. So normally when a woman has zera inside her, it leaks out. Didn't leak out. And Veleda, and her children wouldn't be born. But Masnisatan, we learned a brisa that's a Shtayim be'ish. There were two plumbing systems that got plugged in a man. Shech Vazera uketanim. Going to go to the bathroom. And Shloisha be'isha. Shech Vazera uketanim Veleda. Ravina Amar. Ravina says, Shalosh be'ish, Shech Vazera uketanim upitabas. That's like constipation on steroids. Arba be'isha, Shech Vazera Veleda uketanim upitabas. So this was major constipation that was happening, and that's what Avram Avinu davened, so that the person should become open. Zok the Heilige Gemara weiter. Bat kol rechem. It says also about kol rechem. What is about kol rechem? Amid Rabiyana, the way Rabiyana, afilu time negoilish shall beis Avimelech loitila bitzos. Even the chickens were not laying eggs. That's how everything was plugged up. The only time I think we find such a thing, the chickens didn't lay eggs, is when the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash, when they davened that Hashem should take away the Yetzer Hara for Arias. At that point, so people were not interested in their wives anymore, and chickens stopped producing eggs. and they realize this is not, the oil can't be McQueen this way, so they have to put back the Yitzhar. I'll call upon him. There's a Shiloh that's all the points can discuss. The Welt discusses it. Every Masechta. And from this Gemara, we have Pshitas to the Shiloh. And I hope Moshe Stern will tell me if he's masking to the Pshitas. The big Shiloh that the whole Welt always wants to know is what came first, the chicken or the egg. But from this Gemara, you see there was a Tanagol, there wasn't a Beitza, so you have a right that the chicken came first and then came the egg. We're going to quote now 13 different discussions that Rava had with Rabbi Bar Mori. The first one is somewhat relevant to our sugya, and that's why we're going to go off on this tangent. And Rava is going to ask Rabbi Bar Mori about non zaken in the Welt, but non zaken in the Welt, what is the reasoning for it? So Amalei Rabbi Bar Mori, Mina HaMilsa, where do you know this thing? Good morning, Rabbi Kiva.
Morning, sorry, Yisrael's here too. Did you see it?
But the A of AJ is capital.
Yeah, did you? Now you know.
I figured it out. Now I know. Yeah. So Zok to Gemara. Amar Rabbi Rabbanon. No, also, where does it come from? In the Welt, the Amar Rabbanon, the Rabbanon said, Kol Amabakish Rachem Mal Chaveiroi. If someone davens for his friend, who tarach lo yisei davar, and you need the same remedy that you're davening for somebody else, who nenatchila, you will get your Yeshua first. Where the Welt Zok, where do we know this from? Amalei, so Rabbi Bar Mori said, Mehasa, I'm sorry, Amalei says in the pasuk, Vashem Shov Eshavus Iyod V'Hispaloi Badrei. Why did Hashem return Iyod to his glory? Why did he save Iyod? Because Iyod was davening for somebody else. So this is where you know that from. Amalei, so Rabbi told Rabbi, At Amit Mehasam, you say you know it from Iyod, but no, I mean I know it from the pasuk of Avram, and that's why this whole sugya was brought down over here. It says, "Vayispal Avram el Holikim, Vayirape Elikim is Avimelech v'es Ishtoi b'am Hoysa." Through Avram's tefillah, Avimelech got saved. But it says when Avram Avinu was saved and was zeicha to a child, Iksiv Hashem Pokat Esora Kasher Omar. What do we mean Kasher Omar? Like who said? So we darshan Kasher Omar Avram el Avimelech. The same way Avram tudoi for Avimelech. A Pekida that brought a Pekida to Avram himself. So by Avram davening for Avimelech and his nation, Avram himself had a Yeshua. Frek Toisvis, what are you talking about? The Malachim came to be Mavaser that Sarah was going to have a child long before this mitzvah with Avimelech. So how could you say that it's the tefillah of Avimelech? Zok Toisvis, Avada, you're right. With the Pekida that we're talking about here is not the Heroya, and it's not that Sarah should have a child. But that Sarah should have an easy labor. Sarah was zoichet to an easy labor when he davened for the nation of Avimelech that they should be able to give birth properly. Zok the Gemara weiter. Amar le Rova le Rabbi Bar Mori. Hamil Sadam Inchi. This is what the Welt says. Bad hutza lucky carbon. Sometimes when you're taking out weeds, you're going to damage the fruit. You know what happens is just like oil rush or the shchena. Sometimes when we got to punish one guy, the other people around them are going to suffer. Amalei, where do you know this from? D'chsiv Lama Sarivu Elai. Hashem told the Navi Yirmiyahu, Lama Sarivu Elai, why are you coming to me? Kulchem Pashatimi. You all were Pasheya. He's talking to Yirmiyahu Navi. Was Yirmiyahu Navi Pasheya under Rebbeinu Shalom? Yet Rebbeinu Shalom said Kulchem Pashatimi. No Hashem. So you have a raya that you hang out with these people who are doing aveiros. You're nichlal imoyim. Watch your company, because the people who you hang out with have a big impact on how you're perceived. Amar lei, so Rav said, I know it from the Parshas Hamon that we say every day, that we learned last week. I'm not sure if this qualifies as the Lublina strikes again. It says, Ad Ona in B'Shalach, Ad Ona me Anton Lishmar Mitzvoisai V'Soiroisai. Hashem is talking to Moshe. He's telling Moshe, until when are you going to refuse to do my mitzvahs? It wasn't Moshe who refused, but Moshe is with Klal Yisrael, so he's lumped together with them. Baruch Hashem, we are zoicha to be part of the beautiful Chabura and the beautiful Bais Medrash, so we'll never have to worry about being lumped in with people that are doing bad things. Adrabah, Hashem's going to say to everybody, you give such one to tzedakah, you do Torah, and you do chesed. Why? Because we're part of a kehillah that does those things. Zog to Gemara weiter. Amalei Rava LeRabba Bar Mori. Sivit says when Yosef was introducing his family to Paroi, he didn't take all his brothers. It says he only introduced some of his brothers to Paroi. Chamisha noshim. Why only 5? Why not all? Maninu chamisha. Who are these 5? Amar lehachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan oisan shehuchpelu b'shemois. In the bracha that Yaakov gave, 5 shvatim, their names were mentioned twice. And Rashi says the reason why their names were mentioned twice is because they were weak and they weren't strong and powerful like their brothers. And Yosef did not want Paroi to see his strong, powerful brothers because he wanted to make them heads of the military and heads of the different departments. And he didn't want that. He wanted them to stay privately with Klaishel, not to get busy and engrossed and intertwined with the Egyptian society. So therefore, he only brought his weaker brothers so that Paroi wouldn't really be impressed with them. And Rashi tells us, who are these 5 Shvatim? Dan, Zevulun, Gad, Asher, and Naphtali. They were Chaloshim. They were the weaker of the 2. I mean, they were pretty strong, but I guess compared to the others, they were weaker. So Yosef took a selection of brothers that would least likely inspire Paroi to want them to join the forces. Gewaltig. Break the Gemara. The problem is Yehuda Nami, Yehuda as well, Ichbel Michbel. And he's a Gibor Otzim. Amarle, that wasn't because Yehuda was not a Gibor. There's a special reason that applies only to Yehuda, why his name was mentioned twice in the brachas. Amarle Lemil Sehu. It was a special reason. What happened? My Dichsiv. So these are by the brachas of Moshe. My Dichsiv, it says in the pasuk, Yechiruven Val Yama is Misav Mispar. And then we say Vizois Yehuda. So Vizois Yehuda, it's almost attaching Yehuda to Reuven. It's almost connecting Yehuda's good fortune with Reuven's good fortune. What's the connection? The territory is Yehuda made a promise to his father that if I don't bring Binyamin back, now Avad Binyamin came back. But once a curse comes out of the mouth of a gadol, he always suffers. As it says in the Gemara, Rashi quotes, "Kilas chacham afilu al tanai hiba." So therefore, Yehuda was suffering from this curse, and what was he suffering? Yes, his bones were in the Oren, but his skeleton wasn't set up nice. His bones were moving around. That means that he wasn't having a proper menucha. Moshe asked Rachamim, come to Rebbeinu Shalom. And he said, Reuben's doing fine. Reuben's doing fine. Reuben did an affair too. He was Bilbo Yitzayaviv. And you know what happened? He was Maida. What inspired Reuben to be Maida and not deny it? It was Yehuda. When you saw Yehuda said Tzadkim Amenim. So if anything, Yehuda also was a catalyst for Reuben's godless. So why should Yehuda be lying to Bizayin? Miyad Shema Hashem called Yehuda, and what happened was Olei Varei L'Shafa. His limbs were put together in their sockets, and his skeleton was whole again. But Lo have a Kamaski L'Masifta Derekia. They wouldn't let him in to the yeshiva up there, the yeshiva Shemaila. So Moshe asked another tefillah about Amay Teviyenu. He got into yeshiva, but he didn't know what they were talking about. He was sitting there hearing people telling and learning. He didn't have a clue of what they were saying. And he couldn't tumble with them. So Moshe said, Yodav Ravloi, his hand should be strong. So now he's able to tumble, but he was never right. He was never ice-fearing properly. So then Moshe said, Ve'ezer mitzar of Tia, and then he was over to a full Yeshua. So that's why I said Yehuda twice, because Yehuda needed special chizik because of the cloth. Amalei Rabba Bar Mari. So where does the Velt know the Amri Yinshi Basa Anya Ozla Niyusa? You know what they say? The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Where does this come from? Amalei, this has a base in halacha that's not be learned. Ashir Mevin Bikurim Bekalto Shal Zav Shal Kesef. The very wealthy people, they bring their bikurim in gold and silver baskets. The kohanim take the fruit, and the owners take their silver and gold baskets back with them. But vaniyim, they can't afford gold and silver baskets. The salim netzarim shalarava klufa. They used stalks of the arava plant that were peeled. That's what they're made out of. And guess what? Hasalim v'habikurim noisim l'kayanim. The kohanim kept the baskets too. So you see, the poor gets poorer. While the rich was able to take his basket back, the poor had to give up his basket. Amar lay. So Rava told Rabba, I have another makar for the fact that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Zok to Gemara. It says v'tamei tamei yikra. A mitzayra has to scream tamei tamei and mevaz himself. It's bad enough he has a nega and he's going through everything. He has to be mevaz himself too. So someone who's doing poorly gets pushed out even further. Amalei Rabba Bar Mari Minam Milsa. Where do we know the following thing that the Velt says? The Amar Rabbanan that the Rabbanan say, and they say as follows: Hashkein ve'achoil. Get up early and eat breakfast, and then you'll be healthy and strong. Bekait you'll be resistant to heat stroke. And you'll be resistant to catching a cold when it's too cold. The Inchi and the Velt also say that Shitin Rehute Roit, 60 people could run after somebody, and won't be able to catch up and overpower somebody who ate breakfast. It says in the pasuk, Lo Avu, V'lo Yitzmu, they won't be hungry or thirsty, and therefore V'layakim Sherav Hashemesh. So you see from the pasuk that eating breakfast is going to protect you from any problems. Amalei. So Rabba told Rabba, I have another makar. It says in the pasuk, Va'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem. You're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the first thing you do in the morning. So kriyishma tefillah. Then what are you going to do? Uverech es lachmecha v'esmemecha. Then you're going to make a bracha on lechem and mayim. That's pashakris. Zu parta melech v'kitin shamayim. Once you do that, once you start your day right, mikan ve'elech v'asiroisi machla mikarbecha. You'll be protected from anything bad. That's from eating pashakris. Now the question is, does tikkun work? Does mazonis work? Does cornflakes and milk work? Or does it have to be dafka bread? For that, you have to ask a rabbi. Zok to Gemara. The Tanya we learned, what is this machla that Hashem's going to take away from us? Zumara, that is the disease of the gallbladder. It's a very bad disease. V'lama nikra shma machla. Why did the Torah refer to the sickness on the mora as a machla? Because machla is gematria 83. Machla zumara v'lama nikra shma machla sheshmoinim u'shloish chaloi meshma. It has 83 different sicknesses combined. And machla b'gematria hachi. That is the gematria machla. V'chulan, and all these 83 machlas, you want to avoid them? Pas b'melech shachris v'kita and shalmayim avat. Okay, next interesting point. Amar le'Rava le'Rava bar Mari. Where did this concept come from? That the Rabbanan say, Chavacha karyach chamra. What if your friend calls you a donkey? He insults you. Don't say, I'm not a donkey. How dare you say that? Be makabelit with hachno, uchba legabeich moish. Pull a saddle onto you and put it on you. It's figuratively. In other words, don't argue, agree, and be non-confrontational. You should be from the love and v'nemail. Where do you know that you should do that? Amad dichsiv, when Hagar was confronted after Avram threw her out, the Malach told her, "V'yomer Hagar shikva Sarai." Hagar, the shivcha of Sarah, so she was called a shivcha by the Malach. Amy Zebas, where are you coming from? Where are you going? So Hagar could have said, I'm not a shivcha anymore. I'm free. I left. But that's not what she said. I'm running away from my boss. Meaning she admitted b'achna that she was a shivcha, even though in fact she wasn't, because she was already freed. And look, she was oichet to have a child. I'm not sure what a schus it is to have a Yishmael, but that was the schus that she had. A very strong nation came out of her. Amalei, Rabba Rabba Bamari, Minah Milsa Damar Inchi, Milsa the Ganad Isbach. If you have something, a problem in you, declare it up front. Disclose it up front. Don't wait till you're caught. Call the mamar, declare it up front. So right away, the Mefarshim asks, we just said a minute ago, if someone confronts you with it, you shouldn't contradict him. You shouldn't argue. But who said you have to proactively expose and reveal your problems? So the Mefarshim say, when the guy called you a chamer, you were not a chamer. He's falsely labeling you as something that's incorrect. There, you don't have to disclose something like that because it's not true. But if someone confronts you with that, don't fight, don't argue. Mashenkin, if you actually have a mum, it's always good to disclose it up front. Where do you see that? You see that from Eliezer's negotiation with Pesuel. What happened? Eliezer right away declared, I'm just an Eved. So he disclosed right away his disadvantage. And that's the way you should be. You should be very open to declaring and disclosing your disadvantages. Walk with your head low, humble, needing things, but always make sure to ask and to be concerned and to worry and to make possible arrangements for future. So even though you're lonely, but you should always think of the future and how you're going to make your situation better. You know where you know from the Chsiv, when David was running from Shaul, he asked Abigail's husband, whose name was Novo, to help him out, and Novo refused to help him out. So afterwards, David wanted to come and kill Novo, and Abigail stood up and told her, "Don't kill my husband, because then, as a king, you're starting off. You're going to be known as a king who murders. What moral authority are you going to have to punish people who murder? It's not good for you. Let it go." And she told him, Hashem will make it good for you if you just let it go. And then he said, then she added, when you are successful, remember me. And so you see right away she was putting in a plug for herself because she was concerned about the future. So even though now she's asking that they should save her husband, but nevertheless, she's always trying to think of the future and to try to plan ahead. So a person has to do that as well. A person has to always plan ahead and think and be mishtadel for the future. Don't just ask what you need for today. Make sure to create some type of plan for the future as well. Sometimes it's hard for us to think past our next mortgage payment, but we have to think about our children's mortgage payments. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Omer le Rova l'Rabbi Bamori. Midah Milson Amri Inchi Shitin Takli Matya. 60 illnesses and pains are going to come l'kacha to the jaw. The kolchavre shama b'loyach, who hears his friend talking and doesn't eat. It means his friend is announcing he's making a simcha, he's making a party, and you don't get invited. It's very, very painful for someone who's excluded from a party that someone's making and he wasn't invited. Where do you see that from? Amalei Dechsiv, when Avshalom was first starting his rebellion against David HaMelech, he made a big party. And the Navi told David HaMelech, V'li ani avdecha, me, u'letzadak hakoyin, u'lev'nayo ben yoyoda, those who are loyal to you, King David. U'leshleim avdecha loikar, he didn't call us. So you see, he was very bothered. Why did you exclude us from your party? Amarle, Atam Mehacham, you say it's from there, but Amina, Rabbi says, I know it's Mehacha. It says in the Pasuk, Vayavaya Yitzchak ha'el asar imay. When Yitzchak married Rivka, he was crazy about her, and he took her to the oil of Sarah. The Yikach Rivka, Batila the Isha, Vayavel, he loved her, Vayinochim Yitzchak achere imay. And that helped him get a nechama after his father, for his mother. What happened? Avram Avinu saw how happy his son Yitzchak was, and he felt left out. I don't have a wife. So therefore, what was the catalyst to make Avram want to get remarried? When he saw the happiness that Yitzchak had, that he didn't have, he was a little jealous, and therefore he remarried Keturah. Amalei Rabbi Bar Mori, Hamil Sadamri Inchi, Chamer de Mare, Tivusa Shakya. What does that mean? It means you could be a Baal Simcha and you're serving delicious wine. Who are you thanking when they serve you the wine? The Baal Simcha, the sponsor? No. You're thanking the waiter who poured it for you. Isn't that strange? The wine is coming from one person and you're not even thanking for the wine. You're thanking some low-level guy who doesn't even belong to him. He's just serving you someone else's thing. Where did that concept come from? Zok Gemara, we find that this is how things are via Yeshua. It says as follows. Hashem instructed Moshe to give smicha to Yeshua and thereby giving him the kedusha of the mani. L'man yishmun v'yurin kol adas b'nei Yisrael. The Chsiv Taka says v'yeshua b'den mali ruach chachma. Where did he get it from? Ki samach Moshe es yodav alav. V'yishmu ilav kol b'nei Yisrael. Isn't that strange? It wasn't for Moshe. Moshe was just a conduit. He was just a waiter serving the kedusha that Rebbeinu Shalom put on Yeshua. Yet the Navi says that where did Yeshua's kedusha come from? It came from Moshe. Because that's how it is. People attribute something to the person who delivered it, even though it's the Rebbeinu Shalom who it's all coming from. I guess that's a mushkar haskell for us. Sure, we thank people for doing us favors, but we have to be mindful of any favor that anybody does for us. We have to be makadai to them, but we have to know skum from the Rebbeinu. Amalei Rabba Rabba Bamari, Minam Milsa Dami Inchi, Kalba B'chafne. When a dog is hungry, galali mivla. He'll even eat galala. So Rashi says it can't mean soya because that's normal for a dog to eat. It must mean rocks. When a dog is hungry, he'll even eat rocks. The Chsiv says in the pasuk, "Nefesh shavei tavus nefesh." If you're satisfied, the only thing you're going to eat are geshmaka tasting foods. The nefesh re'eva, if you're starving, kol mar masav. Any bitter thing is delicious for someone who's starving. Amalei Rabba Rabba Bamari Minam Milsa Dami Inchi. Where are you going to find a bad, non-producing decal grow? Usually it'll be growing amongst non-fruit-bearing trees because birds of a feather flock together. This decal is figuratively, it's lazy, it doesn't want to produce, it's going to hang out with other trees that don't produce. Amar Dovaz Akasa B'Torah, we find it in the Torah. Shani B'Neviim, it's found in the Neviim. Umeshus B'Ksuvim, it's mentioned in the Ksuvim. Utnan b'Mesnisin, it's in a Mishnah. V'Tanin b'Brayis. So there's a lot of people who say this. Kasav B'Torah D'Chsiv. V'Yelech Esav El Yishmael. Where did Esav go? To Yishmael. Why? He's a Rasha. He's going to go to Rishayim. Shani B'Neviim. D'Chsiv Yislaktu El Yiftach Hanoshim Reikim V'Yuimai. Who gathered around? Who's attracted to Yiftach? Other such types of people. Umeshulish B'Ksuvim. Where is it mentioned in the Ksuvim? D'Chsiv Kol Oif Lemino Yishkoin. Birds of a feather flock together. People hang out with people that are similar to them. The problem is, there is no such pasuk anywhere in Tanakh. It could be that this is not a pasuk. It's from someone called Ben Sira. Ben Sira was a fellow. There's a shayla. He was the son of Yirmiyah Navi, but Ben Sira was a fellow who wrote his own wisdom, his own proverbs. And there's a sheet in the Gemara who holds you're not allowed. It's also to look at it, but there are those who hold you are allowed to look at it. So this is quotations, and there's many divrei chachma that Ben Sira shared. So this is from Ben Sira. Okay, Zok to Gemara Vayter. Zok to Gemara Vayter. Where else do we find it? We find it in the Mishnah. If you have a keli that's tamei, its handles, its rings, all the things that are connected to it are going to be tamei. And something that's connected to a Torah will be Torah. So you see a person is influenced by surroundings, and he's going to connect with people like him. The zayers are both birds that are tamei, birds of prey. There's a good reason why they stick together because they're both oivis tamei. Once again, birds of a feather flock together. What if you called your friend to give him musar and he ignored your musar? Rami Guda Rabba. Take a big wall of bricks, shadibay, throw it on him. It means you don't have to go help him. If he doesn't want to listen to your musar, let him fall. Let him fall. You don't have to fix him. You did yours. Where do you see it? You see from a pasuk. Since I tried to be matar you, I gave you musar, I was mechazik you, and you didn't want to listen. Because of that, Zok Yecheskel Anavi, Mitamasech Lo Shitari. You're not going to ever ever have a Yeshua from this. You're going to fall. A bar that you drank water, that you benefit from it, don't throw a button to it. Don't destroy what you yourself benefited from. You benefited from mitri. You're not allowed to chop him. Why? Because you benefited from it. I need to lift up this heavy thing and move it. If you help me, I'll do it. If you don't help me, I won't do it. And that is figuratively referring to, if you ever noticed in Laguda, everybody's a partner with everybody. Any building that's owned by somebody, everybody's a partner. All the wealthy people are partners with each other. They're always doing deals together. You know why? Nobody wants to take full liability for anything. They always want to be able to spread liability. That's what this concept is. If you're going to come in, if you go into the deal with me, I'll do the deal. If you're not going to go into the deal with me, I'm not doing the deal. Amalei, where do you see this from? We can say this might be the Lugina strikes again because this is from last week's of Torah, the story of Barak and Devorah and Neviah. Amalei Dechsiva Yomer Le Barak, when Barak was instructed by Devorah to fight, he said, if you come with me, so you see, unless you have skin in the game, I'm not going to do it. Amalei Rabba Rabba Bamari. Minam Milsa Damarinchi Kadavinan Zutri. When we were younger, Legavri, we were treated as VIPs. Hasha the Kashisha. Now that we're old, Ledardiki, we're treated like children. No respect. Amalei Nekar Ksiv Hashem Hoylech Lefneim Yoimon Bamarodin Lachoshem Aderech. The Lila Bamaresh Lor Lahem. At the beginning, when Klaishal was young, who are they? Who are they escorted by? By the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. But later on, it says in the pasuk in the midbar. Later on, it says. Let me turn on to the daf Tzad Gimel Amud Aleph. It says, "Hine anochi sholech malach lefanecha l'shmorcha b'derech." So we'll stop here and Mishnah tomorrow. Before Mincha and before Mincha, Yosef Chaim Mintzberg is saying shir, and I'm going to say shir Mishnah 7:30 Motzei Shabbos.
Yosy.
You should have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you. You too. This trip was okay?
Yeah, it was a perfect trip. We actually made it a good time. We made it in about 8.5 hours.
Didn't stop for much, right?
No, we didn't stop. We stopped for Mincha and to fill up once, and that was it.